This is the capital of Sudan. It is divided in three parts: Omdurman, Khartoum, and Khartoum North. And I know Khartoum sounds like Cartoon Network, but whatever. Also, they like to pretend they are three different cities because a river divides them, but really they are just one city, same as New York, Brooklyn, and Jersey. Anyway, if you look closely at a map of Khartoum, you might find these streets in the shape of a Union Jack, and you may think it is a coincidence, but it is not. And in fact, there's a quite interesting story that explains why they are in this shape. This story begins where Khartoum begins, in 1821, when Ibrahim Pasha, father of the more famous Ismail Pasha, conquered this region in the name of his father, and founded this city to solidify their rule. And he would have been a great civilization player, because he chose a great location for the city. I mean, it is right where the Blue Nile and the White Nile meet to create the Normal Nile, which for a city in the desert is very important because it guarantees water and farming. And also, this means that any trade route that wants to cross the Sahara Desert through that part of Africa has to pass through Khartoum. The city was very strategic, and this became very important when this guy, Mohammed Ahmad, declared himself Al-Mahdi. By the way, I'm pronouncing this as best as I can. The Mahdi is basically the equivalent of Jesus' second coming in Islam. And he started a rebellion, and one of his main goals at the time was to capture Khartoum. And he did, and he massacred the British forces in the city. But nobody messes with Great Britain, who, by the way, has invaded all the world except for these 22 countries. And so, 14 years later, the city was reconquered by British forces led by Herbert Kitchener, in what Sudanese people call the Battle of Karari, but Wikipedia calls the Battle of Omdurman for some reason. This Kitchener guy, by the way, is super interesting. He conquered the border republics. During World War I, he raised the biggest army Britain had ever seen, creating the slogan, "Your country needs you," which later everyone would plagiarize. Also, he was probably gay. Maybe I'll make a video about him one day. Anyway, the point is that he reconquered Khartoum, which leads us to these streets in the shape of the Union Jack. See, the British might be some cheeky bastards, but they wouldn't remake the streets of a city they conquered into their flag without a reason. Remember that this was the site of a huge defeat for the British Empire. Thousands of soldiers died, along with the general, and the city was lost. So Kitchener didn't want that to happen again. And so he wanted to make the city more easy to defend against attacks. And for this purpose, many diagonals and many streets converging on the same point are great because a well-placed machine gun can defend all those streets at the same time. Of course, there are many other grids that can accomplish this, but this is how I imagine that conversation went. So, here are the options of grids to make the city easy to defend. Holy shit, lad. Is that the Union Jack? Oh yes, of course, sir. It's one of the possibilities, but there are far more...
We'll make use of that one.
And so, this is the plan that Kitchener made for the city of Khartoum after the Battle of Karari, overlaid over the current map of the city. As you can see, there wasn't one Union Jack, but many, of which only one survived. Because over time, Sudanese people wanted to distance themselves from their colonial past, and rebels claiming to be the envoy of God at the end of times are not too much of a concern these days. So the grid changed. But these streets persisted in more or less the same way, allowing me to tell you the story. I think it was a good story.